A lot of people want to know, is recovery possible for a narcissist? And I would follow that question up with another question, which is, do you believe that people who are addicted to, let's say, drugs or alcohol are capable of recovery? Because in my opinion, a lot of narcissistic personality disorder is based on addiction. So if you believe that people who have addictions are able to recover, then I would argue that it is possible for a narcissist to recover. And this is where it gets tricky. Well, what does recovery mean to you? The recovery process and what's considered recovery is different for everyone. For example, if I'm addicted to eating a dozen donuts a day and I cut back to 2 donuts a day, I might consider that recovered. I might be totally satisfied with that recovery. Maybe someone else will say, well, you're still eating 2 donuts a day, therefore you haven't really recovered. So you can see that there's a little bit of a gray area there. Some people give up one addiction and take on another. So you have a lot of people who give up alcohol, but they start smoking cigarettes. You can see where I'm going with this. So when we ask ourselves, can a narcissist recover? Well, again, depending on what your definition of recovery is, will then give you an idea of whether or not you believe that recovery is possible for that narcissist. Let's say you have a narcissistic sister and she is emotionally abusive every time you see her. Well, let's say she, for whatever reason, says, I don't want to be emotionally abusive to you anymore, and I'm going to make an effort not to do that. Well, that is possible. There could be a narcissist who genuinely wants to cut back on their emotional abuse for whatever reason. Let's say this sister starts cutting back on the emotional abuse and she's only abusive, let's say 50% of the time. Well, hey, we can't deny that is certainly a big improvement. And once they've cut back to 50%, maybe over time they'll cut back to 25%. So you can see that what one person considers recovery, another person will say no. Unless the narcissist has given up being emotionally abusive 100% of the time, then they have not recovered. They are not in the recovery process. So depending on what your definition of recovery is and your definition of the recovery process, that then will answer the question whether or not you believe recovery is possible for a narcissist. I think that, like any addiction, it just depends on the individual. For example, you could have an alcoholic who drinks 2 beers every night before they go to bed, but they cannot go a day without drinking those 2 beers. Well, a lot of people would argue 2 beers, that's nothing. That's no big deal. Another person will say, hey, that is a hardcore alcoholic because they can't go a day without drinking 2 beers. So you can see it's the same with narcissistic abuse. Some people will say they're just nasty every once in a while. Or they might say, even though they give a little jab every time I see them, it's still relatively harmless because I don't take it personally and I don't care. Therefore, that person is going to say that that narcissist is recovered because they're not actively out scamming people or stealing from people, and they're just being a jerk. I think that some narcissists can recover, just like I believe that anyone with an addiction can recover if they want to. As always, stay strong and get toxic people out of your life.